Hello and welcome to this tutorial on the song Happy by Pharrell Williams. Let me say straight off, this is a tutorial for very young guitarists or beginners. It's not meant to be something for experienced players. This is basically something I'm putting together for those children or beginners who want to play along or play this song in a nice easy way. The proper version's got lots of very difficult bar chords and rhythms which are dealt with on loads of other YouTube videos. So bearing that in mind, let's crack into this. Okay, I strongly suggest you buy the track from iTunes so you can play along with it and have it available. I'm going to be referring to it during the course of this tutorial. Right, you're going to need a capo, which is one of these things. I use a shub capo, as S-H-U-B-B. I found those capos to be about the best there are. There are various other makes, but you definitely want to get a decent one. If you buy a cheap elastic one, it probably won't hold your strings down hard enough. And the purpose of a capo is to shorten the guitar neck so that you can play in different keys. This song, we're going to need a capo on the first fret, and this is to make the chord shapes a lot easier than they would be otherwise. I won't go into the complications of what key it's in, just the fact you'll need a capo and you put it behind, not on top of, but behind the first fret, like this, and make sure it's holding the strings down properly. Okay, I'm just going to play the strings one by one so you can check that you've got your guitar in tune. Because the capo is behind the first fret, your first string, or the highest pitched string, is now an F. Okay, your second string is a C. Your third string is a G sharp or A flat if you prefer. Your fourth string is a D sharp or E flat. Your fifth string is now an A sharp or B flat. And your sixth or thickest string is an F, which is 2 octaves below the first string. And when I say that the third string is G sharp or A flat, that's because G sharp is A flat. It's the same note, just has a different name. Similarly, D sharp and E flat are the same thing, and A sharp and B flat are the same thing. So those are your strings. And you need to make sure that your guitar sounds like that before you carry on. One thing you could do if you've got an iPhone or an iPad is to buy an app that I use, which is called Guitar Toolkit, which I found to be a really good app, and the tuner on that is excellent, and it's a great way of checking to see if your guitar's in tune. You might want to tune it normally first of all, you know, the usual E, B, G, D, A, E tuning, and then put the capo on the first fret. If you've got a very good ear, then you might be able to tweak the strings to make sure it's perfectly in. But you know, these tuners are pretty good these days, and you can trust them. I'm spending a bit of time on this because obviously if your guitar's out of tune, all the hard work you put in with practicing is going to be all to no avail. So make sure the guitar sounds like that before you carry on. For most of my life I've been a professional guitar teacher, and about 35-40 years ago I developed this code, which is quite simple to understand. I use it in this tutorial, so let's make sure you understand it. If I say O and a little E, O-E, I'm talking about the E string nearest the floor, the highest pitched E string played open. If I say O-B, obviously the B string played open. If I say 1-G, that means G string, but finger behind the first fret, like that. If I say 2A, for instance, that's finger behind the second fret of the A string. So the number is the fret and the letter is the string. And I refer to the E string nearest the floor, the highest pitched E string, as little e or lowercase e, and the E string nearest the ceiling as capital E. I've used that code for years and years, and I find that it works pretty well. But you'll need to understand that to understand the sheets that go with this tutorial. You'll need to download the sheets from my website to help you with this. The website is www.daddylongles.com, address on your screen now, and if you go to that website you'll be able to find the sheets that you need to help you with this song. Right, having said all that, we can now start playing. Now the very first thing in the song is this short introduction, and there's a couple of ways you can do this. The best way is to hold down an E7 chord, and I've written that down in my code. It's open E, open B, first fret of the G string, open D, second fret of the A string, and open E. Now obviously you're not going to play the notes separately, you're going to strum them across like that. Notice my two fingers that I've got on the strings are arched, and by the way I've just cut my fingernails, make sure they're nice and short. Arch, get your fingers pressing down hard on those strings, close to the frets. So you've only got fingers on the G and the A string, the other strings are open, and you simply go 1, 2, 3, 4. And you've got those 5 nice short strums. And notice that I mute the strings by putting my hand back on the strings straight after I play them. It's not all the strings ring like that. If you can do it, cut them dead each time. For a beginner that's pretty hard, but if you can do it, it really does sound good. If you find this chord too hard, simply play the open thickest D string 5 times, and that will do as an intro, but obviously the chord sounds better. Right, then comes the verse. Now, Pharrell Williams sings a line of words and then comes a little riff. Now, I'm going to give this riff to you in a couple of ways. The first way sounds like this. So he sings, it might sound crazy what I'm about to say. Like that. Now I'm going to break that down for you. Now what you've got there, you've got open E, 3rd fret of the E, that's the thickest E string of course, use your 3rd finger. Now you've got open E again, I put that in brackets because that's an optional note. If you find you can't squeeze this note in, you can leave it out. For the moment we're going to leave it in. So open E, 3rd fret of the E, open E, or if you like in my code, OE, 3E, OE. Go to open A, A is the 5th string, the next one down. Back to the 3rd fret of the E string, 2nd fret of the A string, open A string, 3rd fret of the E string, open A string again, 3rd fret of the E string again, and back to open E. So you've got. Now, I don't mind how you pick the strings. I definitely would use a plectrum, by the way. I know lots of beginners use their thumb and their fingers, but you'll get a much better sound if you use your plectrum. And you should lean on the bridge. The heel of your hand, if you like, should be placed on the bridge so that your plectrum is always the same distance from the strings at all times. So with your hand on the bridge in that way, it'll feel nice, and you'll be able to play the strings in a confident manner each time. So that riff, okay. Now, as I say, if you can't squeeze that open E in that I put in brackets, just leave it out. That will sound like this. You notice that time I played all the notes with downstrokes of the plectrum. Downstrokes when the plectrum is above the string and you push down to the floor. You definitely want to use your 3rd finger behind the 3rd fret and your 2nd finger behind the 2nd fret. If you can put that other open E in, that sounds pretty nice. Let's just play, go to the track and just play that intro and the verse, because that little riff I've just shown you, it goes 4 times. So we've got this. Okay, so here we go. So first time. Now you can hear he sings a line, you play the riff, he sings a line, you play the riff 4 times. And at the end of the 4th time, you don't play the final open E. I put a little asterisk or a little star by it. Don't play that final open E. So the 4th time you play the riff, it will sound like this. because that gives you a chance to get into your chorus where you're going to play some chords. Okay, it's quite fast, isn't it? So I would practice it slowly at first. Gradually building the speed up. Now don't forget, these thicker strings need a bit more pressure than the thinner strings. You need to make sure you're pressing really hard, arching your fingers, get your fingers close to the frets, all the usual things that you've probably been taught by your guitar teacher. As I say, on that intro there's no warning, so you might miss the first strum, just come in on the second one. If you're playing on the record, you're going to find that problem. If you're playing with a backing track, that backing track might have a little tap in, or it may not, but anyway, see how you go with that. Alright, so that's the verse riff, and as I say, it goes 4 times, but don't forget on the 4th time, don't play the final note. That will get you ready for the chorus. In the chorus you're going to need a few chords. The first chord you need is C major 7th. Now, sounds a bit difficult, it's not too hard. If you've done a proper 3-fingered C chord, I can tell you it's that chord with the first finger lifted. If you haven't, I'll break it down for you string by string. So it's open thin E string, open B string, open G string. So those 3 strings nearest the floor are all open. Then you have 2nd fret of the D string, or 2D as I call it, 2nd finger, and 3rd fret of the A string, or 3A as I call it, and you don't strum the thickest E string, the string nearest the ceiling. If you do happen to strum it, it's not the end of the world, but try not to. You can see the 5 notes stacked one on top of the other on my sheet. It says C major 7th, and it's OE, open B, open G, 2D and 3A, and of course you strum from the A string down to the E string. Now we're not going to do like a funky strum here. I consider that too hard for most young children. We're simply going to do a single strum, a single down strum on that chord C major 7th. You're going to need B minor, and B minor looks like a diagonal shape. I often say to children that it's like stepping stones. So the chord broken down is 2nd fret of the thin E string, 1st finger, 3rd fret of the B string, 2nd finger, 4th fret of the G string, 3rd finger. I should also say, because we've got the capo on, when I say 2nd fret, realistically it's the 3rd fret. When I say 3rd fret, it's really the 4th fret, but you know, with the capo on them, that's why we get this kind of strange numbering. But we just pretend that the capo's not on, otherwise it can get horribly confusing. Alright, so it's 2nd fret up from the capo, which is of course really the 3rd fret. So 2nd fret of the E string, 3rd fret of the B string, 4th fret of the G string. Strum only the 3 strings nearest the floor. You need to press hard, arch your fingers. A little bit of a tricky chord, but it's, you know, definitely doable if you practice it and your fingernails are nice and short. And you strum that chord 3 strings. You'll find you'll need that chord twice in a row. And the other chord you need in the chorus is the chord you started with, which was E7. And if you can't remember how to do that, look at the beginning of page 1. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do single strum on C major 7th, single strum on B minor, single strum on B minor again, and a single strum on E7. Now, you could just play those chords on the beat, but if you want it to sound really good, this is how you do it. You can see some counting above the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first time you say 1, that's where your C major 7th goes. Now the first time you say and, that's between the count of 4 and 1, you strum the B minor, that's off the beat. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, next time you say 1, you play the B minor again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the next and, okay, which is between the 4 and the 1, you play the E7. So the first B minor chord that you play and the E7, they're both off the beat, and the C major 7th and the 2nd B minor are on the beat. So you have 4 times. just remind you, this is a tutorial for beginners or young guitarists. The proper strumming there is a bit harder, and you don't get two B minors in the proper strumming, but the chord you need there is one of these, which is a B7 sus4, which is way too hard for most beginners. So you know, bear that in mind, but it still sounds okay. Let's run that with the track, shall we? So I'm just going to run you into the chorus here. So here's the chorus with the chords. Back to your riff, leave the gap for him to sing, and the verse riff. 4 times. Remember to leave the last note off this time. Chorus. 4 times. This middle bit, do nothing, just because there's no music here, it's all singing and clapping, percussion, so just leave this, but be ready to come in with the chorus again, which is a double length this time. So when the chorus comes back in, it's 8 times through the sequence. So get ready, coming up. Here we go then. Keep going, double length. Last time. Now middle bit, so play nothing. This time it's half the length of the first middle bit. So you need to get ready a bit quicker to do the double chorus that you're going to finish with. So here we go again, double chorus. Keep going. So, although I say it's for very young guitarists and beginners, you know, it still needs quite a lot of practicing to get those chords to sound good. Obviously, I've got a very expensive guitar here. When I first started, I probably had a guitar maybe like you've got, not particularly good. The strings were quite a long way off the fingerboard. That's what we call a high action. So, you know, it's a bit harder to play. But if you practice hard, then eventually I'm sure you'll progress to a better quality guitar. Everything comes with time, doesn't it? Anyway, I hope you found that interesting, and you know, if you can manage to play that, as I said, there are loads of YouTube videos of how to play this song with all the big chords and all the proper rhythms. This has been designed particularly for the beginner in mind. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, like I say, and I'll see you soon.